Hello friends, today we are starting with a method of costing, that is contract costing. This is one of the easiest and very interesting topics of your syllabus. It relates little bit with the final accounts of any entity. Here it will be of a company which is having contracts with the people. Something like a construction company. So we'll talk in lots of detail. Today is lots of concepts which will be followed by questions later on. You can start writing along with me. Applicability of contract costing. Where this contract costing is applicable. Applicability of contract costing. Every method applies in a specific industry. So where this contract costing is applicable is what you are writing. It applies in the industries where there is involvement of long-term contracts. That is, the contracts which get fulfilled or completed, you can say, in more than one accounting period. Broadly, contract represents longer version of the job. Now try to understand the real problem under contract costing. Let us say I am a contractor. I am a civil engineer who is making buildings. A building will get created in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years. Not in less than 1 year. Rarely there will be a building created in less than 1 year. So it's a long-term contract. Now I take one example throughout the topic. I'm going to construct a building in 7 years. And I'm going to get 100 crore rupees for it. Posh building, hotel with all rooms filled with everything. Create interiors also, toilets also, everything I'll create. Within 7 years I'll do it, and after 7 years I will get contract price 100 crore. Now question arises, in my books of accounts, who am I? Contractor. In contractor's books of account, when should 100 crore be treated as a revenue? That is a question mark. The profit that I am earning, should I book it in first year? Or should I wait till completion of 7th year? Or partly in every year from first year? In 7 years, 1/7 or something else? That is a question mark we are going to study in this topic. How the revenue recognition is to be done in the books of contractor who is doing a contract which will be completed in more than one accounting period. That is only question to be responded in this topic. So it is primarily making final accounts of contractor and deciding what portion of profit should be taken to profit and loss account. Under costing, we call it costing P&L account. So this is the question that we'll answer in this topic. Is it genuine to put all the profit in first year and then declare dividends out of it? Not at all. Because profit is not at all earned in first year. First year only 5-10% work is done. So how can you create all the profit in the P&L and then distribute dividend also? Not justified. No accounting will help you reach this conclusion. Should I wait till 7th year? There used to be a method called completed contract method. It said exactly same. Wait till 7th year to recognize any profit or loss. But that method is now not acceptable. Not acceptable for long-term contracts. There is an accounting standard AS7. Accounting standard 7 on construction contracts. It says completed contract method should not be applied. So only third thing is possible, which is using percentage of completion method, which is allowed under AS7. Percentage of completion method. The more work you do, the more profit you can take to the costing P&L in the particular year. So there is a proper way of doing it, which you will understand in the contract costing topic. Let us write further. The real issue to be handled is profit recognition in various accounting periods. Correct. Contract costing is also termed as another name of contract costing, terminal costing. Terminal costing. Under contract costing, we prepare a special account called contract account, in which all expenses are put on debit side and all revenues are put on credit side. It is similar to the income statement that we prepare. On debit side, all the expenses, even opening stocks. On credit side, all the revenues, even the closing stocks. Now from there we will get something called notional profit, which we will analyze further to find what amount should be taken to costing P&L. We will reach there. Before we reach there, I like to discuss with you terms related to contract costing. Some new terms are there which are very important for your understanding. So try to get each of that term correctly in your mind. So make a heading there. Few terms used in contract costing. Few terms used in contract costing. Number one, retention money. Now, retention money is a very important concept. Even in small contracts, in bigger contracts or long-term contracts, it becomes even more important. Now, try to understand for a small contract. Let us say I have to get some plumbing jobs at my house. 4 or 5 things are to be corrected. So I call upon a plumber. You don't easily get these people. So I keep on calling him 2-3 days. Then he comes in the afternoon one day. He asks me what are the jobs to be done. I tell him, number 1, some tap is to be corrected. Number 2, some washer is to be corrected. Number 3, water tank is to be corrected. Number 4, something else. Number 5, something else. I tell him 5 jobs. He says, okay, 200 per job, 1000 is your bill, which I can do. I say, okay, do it. He keeps doing the work till late evening. He is able to correct 3 out of 5 jobs. 3 out of 5 jobs. In the evening, he asked me for some money. Very importantly, he has done the job of 600 rupees. I should not give him 600 rupees. If I give him 600, he may not come for balance 400 work. So my work will be not done because there are small jobs left. I should pay him, let's say, 300 or maximum 400. He has done the job of 600. I should pay him 300. I'll say balance will be paid to you once the balance part of the contract is done. This 50% or whatever percentage I am keeping with me is called retention money. Why I am keeping it? To safeguard my interest for completion of contract. If I pay him fully, he may not return next day at all. Now, same applies in the huge contract of 100 crores for 7 years. In 4 years, whatever work I have done, if they pay me everything and I get a better contract of 1000 crores, I may not complete this contract. There is some penalty, they will sue me. Let's go to court, wait there for 20 years. So that is not correct way of doing. Better is, if in 4 years I have done the work of 60 crore, they should pay me 40 crore only. The work I have done, they will retain some money, which is called retention money. And retention money is not a TDS type of thing. It is not a discount type of thing. It is something which will be paid on ultimate completion of contract. You are just retaining it so that you can check at the end of contract everything is satisfactorily done and then the money will be released to you. In all big contracts, it is happening there. So let us write there retention money. Normally, the contractor does not get the full payment of the work done and the contractee retains some amount to be paid on ultimate completion of contract. This amount is known as retention money. Second term, work in progress. Two types: certified work, uncertified work. Now try to understand a story. He tells me whatever is work completed, I will pay you 60% of the same, having 40% retention clause. 40% retention, 60% he will pay me. I am going to do the work there. I am doing work. Let us say I am able to do 10 crore work. He will retain 4 crore and pay 6 crore. That is what is going to happen. Now, I can be very, very handsome to tell him I have done the work of 15 crore. He will ask me how much work you have done. I tell him 15 crore. Now, 15 into 60% becomes 9 crore. This way, he will be paying me 9 crore. Actually, I have done only 10 crore. So, I can be gent enough. He will not help me do that. What will happen? He will counter check how much work I have done. How will he counter check? He will appoint an expert on his behalf. A civil engineer on his behalf will be appointed. Who will come here? I tell him I have done the work of 15 crore. He will check this. He will say no, it's 10 crore. So I'll be caught if I'm doing mischief. So what is happening? His engineer is coming to the site where I'm doing the work and confirming how much work I have done. He'll make a certificate and after signing give it to me. You have done work of 10 crore. He'll give a copy to contractee also that he has done 10 crore work. So what I'm doing the concept of certification. The amount for which he has issued certificate is called value of certified work. Value of work certified. But imagine again, my balance sheet date is 31st March. His engineer comes to me not on 31st March. It's not a very easy job that in 1 second he will check and say that it's 10 crore. No, it will take him 5 days, 10 days. He comes on 20th March, starts checking. I made this much wall on 20th March. He counts it, measures it, values it, put in the certificate. He goes further. By the end of 31st March, I have completed this wall and even linter is complete. Now, he has not accounted for that part because he checked this room on 20th March. On 31st March, he will not come back here and start measurement again because he will take some days to complete the work. So, in last 10-11 days, whatever work is done, it is not in the certificate. It is called uncertified work. This is uncertified work. Uncertified is a work which I have done, contractor has done, but is not reported in the certificate of the independent engineer. In my books, I cannot include profit in this because contractee does not agree to this work having been done. This must be strictly taken at cost. In certified work, it is cost plus profit. In uncertified work, it is only cost, strictly cost. Certified work is valued as a percentage of contract price which includes profit. Uncertified work should strictly be taken at cost only. So you can write there WIP comprises the aggregate of work certified and work uncertified. The work certified can be taken as a percentage of contract price and hence include the profit, whereas uncertified work must strictly be valued at cost. Because uncertified is something which contractee is not agreeing to having been done. Still I want to consider it, I can consider, but it will be considered strictly at cost. This is work in progress. Third term, subcontract. My main contract is to make a building with the contractee. I am civil engineer, architect, expert in creating buildings, in interior designing, but I am not expert in electrical work, in wooden work, in many other specialized tasks. Either I will have a department in my company for these, or otherwise I will give this work on subcontract basis to some other contractors. For those subcontracts, I will be contractee, they will be contractor. I will be paying them something. So subcontract cost is something that I will have to charge in the debit side of my contract account. So you can understand my position. I am the contractee in those subcontracts. So you can write there, the person who is assigned a contract may get a portion of it done through a subcontract. The subcontract cost should be put on the debit side of the contract account in books of contractor. Only my books you are understanding. In my books, on debit side of contract account will charge that subcontract cost. Number 4. Notional profit. Notional profit. The balancing figure in contract account is termed as notional profit. It is not called net profit, gross profit, it is called notional profit. And it is to be dealt further in the same contract account extension. I'll make a contract account, a sample contract account that will help you understand various more terms and the notional profit and its treatment. So I make a contract account now. You must make it along with me. This contract account will have 4 columns, particulars amount, particulars amount. In some bigger contracts, it can be amount in thousands or lakhs even. Otherwise, amount is in rupees, simple rupees. This is debit side, this is credit side, just like a P&L account. Let us put some items here. If it is a running contract, there will be opening items also. In first year, they will not be there. In subsequent years, there will be 2 opening WIP. Whatever was closing WIP last year will be opening WIP this year. In first year, it will not be there. 2 opening to opening material at site. If any. Then 2 materials issued. Normally what is happening, I am having one common godown. For all contracts, I buy material there and then some of that is issued to each contract. For each contract, I am making a separate contract account. For my X building that I am creating, this is a contract account. So material issued to that will be there. If any direct material is directly purchased at that site, that can also come here. So 2 materials directly purchased at a site. Whatever I am issued from the store or whatever is directly purchased there, both will come. 2 labor costs, all on accrual basis. Add outstanding labor minus prepaid labor, all will be adjusted there. 2 other costs, overheads, etc. All other cash cost, if it is there, will also be on debit side of this. The important thing is next one. 2 depreciation on plant. Now very important, you will find in some books, they don't charge depreciation, they put opening plant in debit side, closing plant on credit side. That is also correct, there is no problem. But I am doing like P&L account. In P&L account, we never put fixed asset opening closing. We put only depreciation. Moreover, if there is any purchase or sale of plant during the year, they will have to put everything. If you are putting opening closing balance, you will have to put everything like purchase, sale, profit on sale, loss on sale. In our case, nothing to be put. Only depreciation. No purchase, no sale, no profit on sale, no loss on sale. Because they will go to costing P&L. They will not go to the contract account. So contract account, I am recommending you put only depreciation. Make a habit of this. Don't change it question by question or book by book. In this book, this is no. Make sure your concept is clear. Your concept should be charge depreciation on the debit side. To subcontract cost. I put most of the items here. I am going on to credit side now. Very, very important to follow. On credit side, by opening WIP reserve, if any. I'll explain what is WIP reserve once this contract account is complete. So you'll get to know from closing. Easily you'll be able to understand. Very important, the major revenue. The major revenue here, by closing WIP. By closing WIP. It will always be classified into two parts. A part, work certified. B part, work uncertified. And work uncertified at cost. Work certified will be percentage of contract price, includes profit. Uncertified is strictly at cost. By closing material at site. By costing P&L, material lost at cost. If there is any loss of material, I will be putting here by costing P&L. It is a normal loss which will be taken there. Now balancing figure. To notional profit, if it comes on credit side, by notional loss. Obviously, one of these will exist. Contract account is not complete. It will be extended. Like after P&L, we extend to P&L appropriation. This is also extended further. Most important is the extension. And extension takes place if it is notional profit. If it is loss, it is taken to costing P&L. Matter is over. I can write here in bracket, taken to costing P&L. So no extension if there is notional loss. If it is notional profit, by notional profit, this comes here. To costing P&L. To WIP reserve. As per rules. This is important. As per rules, some amount of the notional profit is to be taken to costing P&L and balancing figure will be WIP reserve. Now try to understand what is WIP reserve. Is it technically a reserve? No, it is provision. It is like stock reserve. It is a provision on the value of WIP. Out of WIP, we have earned something in notional profit. Out of that notional profit, something is taken to costing P&L, balance goes to WIP reserve. Very important to understand how you get costing P&L amount as per the rules. If there is 1 lakh notional profit, if 90,000 is taken to costing P&L, 10,000 will be WIP reserve, which is provision against WIP value that we created in this credit side, this WIP. Again, this WIP, this is closing WIP reserve. I must mention for your understanding, this is closing WIP reserve. This closing WIP reserve next year will become opening WIP reserve. This becomes opening WIP next year. This is opening WIP next year, and this is opening WIP reserve of next year, which will be taken on debit and credit side respectively in the contract account. Now, last thing for the day to understand is rules to determine what amount will be taken to costing P&L. So, make a heading there. Rules to determine profits to be taken to costing P&L account. Rule 1. There are 4 rules in all, which you'll get in detail today. The 4th rule, little bit you'll get today, more details you'll get in lectures to follow. Rule 1. When does this rule apply? When contract completion is less than 25%. Now remember one thing, completion means certified work. That percentage on which both the parties are agreed upon that this work has been done. His engineer gave me certificate for whatever is contract completion. Means in 100 crore contract, 24 crore contract was certified and 2 crore was uncertified. Does this fall in clause 1, rule 1 or rule 2? It falls in rule 1 because 24% completion is there, not 26, because uncertified should not be counted for the purpose of contract completion. If it is less than 25%, then this first rule will apply. What is the rule? No profit taken to costing P&L. Means work done is very less, all profit should go to WIP reserve. None of the profit should be taken to costing P&L. Rule 2. When contract completion is 25% or more, but less than 50%. Formula applied: 1/3 into notional profit multiplied by progress payment ratio. One by 3 into notional profit into progress payment ratio. And what is progress payment ratio? It is reverse of retention ratio. Progress payment ratio, cash received divided by work certified. So once condition is fulfilled, the completion is more than 25%, even at exact 25%. 25% or more, but less than 50%. At exact 50%, rule 3 will apply. So this is a formula to be applied. This gives me profit taken to P&L. Rule 3. When contract completion is 50% or more, but contract is not near completion. Now, near completion they define around 80% or more. Now, few authors define it at 90%, but some people define it around 80%. It should not be near completion. Near completion can be defined differently by different authors, but the term should be followed, near completion. Then formula applied. Same formula that I wrote earlier, instead of 1 by 3, it is 2 by 3. 2 by 3 into notional profit into progress payment ratio. Which is cash received by work certified. Must define it in the exam. Don't leave it like progress payment ratio. Must define it. Profit taken to costing P&L. Rule 4. When contract is near completion, one of the following formulas can be used by the contractor as per their policy. I will still give priority to the first formula, but there are multiple formulas given for this purpose. Number 1, estimated profit into cash received divided by contract price. Estimated profit multiplied by work certified divided by contract price. estimated profit multiplied by cost till date divide by estimated total cost. Number 4, estimated profit into cost till date divide by estimated total cost multiplied by progress payment ratio. If estimated profit cannot be computed, then notional profit into work certified divided by contract price. Now question arises, what is estimated profit? That is what we will understand on some other day as we reach rule 4. As of today, what you must do, you must remember the meaning of all the terms, and all the rules should be in your mind with all percentages and all the formulas.